Today, we're going to take a very early look at the Oscars 2021, because why the heck not? And also, this is hopefully far enough out not to be disrupted by the current global situation. We don't know for sure, but it's pretty far out, and so hopefully that is the case. Now, you might have seen the headline that the Golden Globes and the Emmys have made some adjustments already to their rules for qualification. But that's because both of those awards shows cover television. The Emmys is just TV. And television doesn't have the same awards window that movies do. And some contenders, strong contenders, are debuting right now or very soon. All right, so two of the big stories at the Oscars last year were female directors, as in none were nominated, despite an incredibly strong group last year, and Netflix, which landed a slew of nominations thanks to super aggressive campaigns that included significant cash spends. Although the streamer only walked away with 2 wins, Best Supporting Actress and Best Documentary. It's like a movie itself. It was such a diss from the industry. They're like, we'll take your awards campaign money, but give you no gold in return, or very little gold. Now this year, as you'll see, a new batch of female directors will storm the Oscars in hopes of at least a nomination. But it's a smaller group, only 3 who are frontrunners, and 2 of them are making their directorial debuts. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them to get a nomination, because the female directors from last year can't turn around and make a new movie that quickly. But it would be interesting to see if this lesser group, just in terms of experience, benefited from the more experienced group failing so horribly last year. And Netflix, well, this year they have so many contenders, I'm only going to list their frontrunners. And that's still 6 movies. It's too many movies. I'll be curious to see which ones. Even though Netflix is apparently a bottomless well of cash, which is why everybody else wants to start a streaming service right now, they can't possibly spend or have enough money to promote more than 6 films as Oscar contenders. Do they? All right, so they have also amassed top-tier talent. They're like, Hollywood, how long can you ignore this kind of talent's work? And Hollywood's like, I don't know, let's see. All right, so Spike Lee has a Netflix movie, Da 5 Bloods, which is a Vietnam film about some soldiers going back to Vietnam, revisiting their experience. And that stars Chadwick Boseman, Mr. Black Panther himself, before he became Black Panther and had to do the Wakanda Forever sign all the time, which social media loves kind of like making fun of how he loses enthusiasm for it. He's a cool guy, though. He loves being T'Challa. But he is a very talented actor, and he did some wonderful biographies before he became Black Panther, and so I'm sure he's eager to get back to showing off what he can do acting-wise. And the movie will also co-star hot newcomer Paul Walter Hauser, who was very good in Richard Jewell. He's an unlikely star, but very talented. Ron Howard has a Netflix movie, Hillbilly Elegy. Oh, it just sounds like an Oscar contender, right? It's a look at 3 generations of an Appalachian family trying to achieve the American dream. Although, I've already watched, I can't believe, I don't remember the name of the Timothy Oliphant show. Well, obviously I have a poster up here. And then also Ozark. So we kind of, see that story already. But this stars 2 actresses who have been Oscar bridesmaids for too damn long. We'll see if it continues. They'll almost surely be nominated. David Fincher is also making a Netflix movie, although of course he made a fabulous Netflix series that nobody watched. But this is Mank, and he's directing his own father's script. Hollywood's going to love that right there. His father is an experienced screenwriter, but not nearly as successful as his son, as a director. They're going to do this movie based on the making of Citizen Kane, arguably the most famous film of all time. Not so much these days. It's a very good movie. You should have seen Citizen Kane. And it's about the contentious relationship between Orson Welles, who had a contentious relationship with everybody, but in this case, with legendary screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz. You should know his name as well. And Hollywood loves movies about themselves. So this seems like a very strong contender to me. Although, it's an odd choice for David Fincher. I'm curious to see how he adapts his style to that type of movie. All right, then, Ana de Armas, hot off of her Golden Globe nomination for Knives Out, stars in a new Marilyn Monroe biography. And the awards, awards voters tend to like stuff about, or they have in the past at least, about Marilyn. Then Ryan Murphy. Now, he's a huge name on television, but he has no Oscar track record yet. But he's got not just one, but 2 LGBT powerhouse films for Netflix as part of his new deal at the streamer. And I think both of them are going to be almost impossible for the awards voters to ignore. Nor should they. So there's The Boys in the Band, where Ryan Murphy is bringing the stage play to the screen. And it stars a who's who of out actors in Hollywood, who starred in the recent Broadway revival. I mean, that just is like an amazing contender right there. But then he tops himself, Ryan Murphy. And then he's also adapting another Broadway hit, The Prom, which you might recall recently turned heads at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade last year. And this also, as you can see, has an all-star cast. Wow. All right, so that's Netflix. Very strong. Next up, though, Disney, right? Who's flexing its new Fox Searchlight Awards muscle with 7 contenders. One more than the top contenders at Netflix. It seems like almost too much. All right, so. Also, by the way, Disney proper has, of course, Soul, which I think right now seems like the frontrunner for sure for Best Animated Feature. All right, now, back to Fox Searchlight, which is really 20th Century Pictures and Searchlight Pictures. We still all call it Fox. All right, so anyway, they also have a pocket full of stars themselves. There's The Last Duel, which sees Matt Damon and Ben Affleck reteam in an ambitious period piece. You can't ignore costume choices like this. Adam Driver and Jodie Comer co-star. That's amazing for Ridley Scott. Then there's Steven Spielberg himself, going in there like Marty did before. You know, I wonder if Spielberg will say a bunch of bad stuff about comic book movies. But Steven Spielberg's up at bat this year with his West Side Story remake. That's not only got a fight on screen, but one off camera as well. As it goes, it's supposedly going to go head to head with Warner Brothers in the Heights if the latter can find a new release date. Wes Anderson returns to live action after a 6-year break. But he's coming off of Grand Budapest Hotel, which was his most nominated film ever. I feel like Wes Anderson kind of always does the same thing, but he really upped the ante and surprised us with Grand Budapest Hotel. So maybe he will again with The French Dispatch. All right, then there's Disney's new star, who just won for Best Adapted Screenplay, Taika Waititi, who now has Next Goal Wins, a feel-good sports movie starring Michael Fassbender, which in and of itself sounds hilarious. Although with Taika Waititi and Michael Fassbender involved, you can bet it won't be your typical feel-good sports movie. Speaking of new Disney stars, although some of these movies, I think they finished filming Next Goal Wins. I think most of these are at least have been filmed and so are being edited. They're pretty squared away, I believe. That's an interesting question as well. All right, so anyway, speaking of new Disney stars, Eternals director Chloe Zhao has 2 films for the studio this year. Nomadland stars Frances McDormand as a woman who loses everything and goes on a road trip through the American West, which totally sounds like something Frances McDormand would do. Now, she's already won for Best Actress, but she could get nominated again. Anytime you have an Academy Award, someone who's frequently nominated or won in your movie, it shoots to the front of the pack. And then speaking of Best Actress contenders, Jessica Chastain, right, stars as infamous televangelist Tammy Faye Baker. You know, this sounds like an excellent opportunity for her. She'll lather on the eye makeup. It's going to be great. In a movie that's called, fittingly, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And now this co-stars Vincent D'Onofrio, but also Andrew Garfield, who I think is carving out a nice little space for himself as a prestige actor as well. So I would love to see maybe him get a nomination as well. Chastain, by the way, is also an Oscar bridesmaid, although not to the extent that Adams and Close are. Finally for Disney Fox, Guillermo del Toro returns after his Best Picture and Best Director wins for The Shape of Water. It might have left us scratching our heads, but he did it, he won. But now he has Nightmare Alley, an LA Confidential type movie about Hollywood con men and women, which you can see has an all-star cast of Oscar favorites. That sounds excellent. Then there are some other studios who are going to try and get some movies in here besides Netflix and Disney. All right, Neon, who ran incredible campaigns for not just I, Tonya, but of course Parasite. Well, this year they have another strong contender with Ammonite, a lesbian period romance starring Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. Saoirse Ronan also becoming an Oscar bridesmaid. I think that, there's been a lot of discussion about the type of LGBT films that are recognized at the Oscars, and they've done a very good job with movies about gay men. But I think that, the Moonlight winning was such a big deal for, gay men of color. But there are actually a lot of movies with strong lesbian representation that have done very well at the awards. So, and it's funny because, well, not funny, but it's weird because there have been some high-profile films that have come out recently that never really made it to the Oscars. So it'll be interesting to see with this kind of star power if Ammonite can succeed where those movies failed. Although it is directed by a man, which I think is going to hurt it a little bit. All right, then, A24's big contender this year is Red, White, and Water. Oh, what a clever title. All right, you know, you just love to see the awards game being played. But this is the return of Jennifer Lawrence opposite Brian Tyree Henry, who really is due for being recognized for what an amazing actor that he is. He's in the Eternals as well. He's a great actor. He's so good. This is about a U.S. soldier recovering from a brain injury, and it's the directorial debut of theater director Lila Neugebauer. Lila Neugebauer. Now, another female theater director is jumping to the big screen, this time Liesl Tommy from South Africa, who already has another deal in place to direct the movie based on Trevor Noah's book about his mother's tragic situation in South Africa. But anyway, here, Liesl Tommy will direct Jennifer Hudson in Respect, and Aretha Franklin handpicked Hudson for the role before her passing. But Genius's Aretha Franklin series, starring Oscar nominee Cynthia Erivo, who herself is an incredibly talented actress and singer, well, that hits small screen May 25th, and could undercut Respect. Although the Oscars, of course, really are striving for diversity in their nominations, so it would seem that Hudson is a shoo-in for a nomination if United Artists can run even just a good campaign. Paramount, meanwhile, has Aaron Sorkin in their corner. It's almost like sports teams, like with big players if you drafted to your corner. Well, Paramount has Aaron Sorkin, and he's returning to the director's chair after Molly's Game, this time with the trial of the Chicago 7, which he's also writing, of course, which is about the uprising at the 1968 Democratic Convention, which was in Chicago, with another top-notch cast. Then Sony Pictures Classics has The Father, where Oscar heavyweights Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman square off as a man and his daughter who have a very difficult relationship over the years. And this is the directorial debut of another theater person, this time French playwright Florian Zeller adapting his own play. Then over at Universal, they have Paul Greengrass's News of the World, where Tom Hanks plays a reporter who must deal with an orphan girl after the Civil War. I wonder if he'll be sharing his coronavirus battle story during that awards campaign. That's interesting. That's an interesting project for Paul Greengrass. I'll be curious to see how that looks. But then, for Universal's Focus Features shingle, that's their awards-centric shingle, they have Greengrass's Bourne star Matt Damon, this time for awards favorite director Tom McCarthy. Look how many awards favorite films Tom McCarthy has directed, yet still his own profile is so low. All right, but anyway, Stillwater is about a father from Oklahoma who has to go to France to help his daughter who's been arrested for murder. And yes, that does sound like Chris Evans' new show, but thank goodness nobody watches Apple TV. All right, so then, finally, Warner Brothers. Again, they have In the Heights, which should be a strong contender if they can find a new release date. They're going to get so much extra ink for the movie if they can generate those In the Heights versus West Side Story comparison articles, which will be in the favor, I believe, of In the Heights. I don't know, though. I'm still not sure which way public opinion and media opinion will go on that fight. I think we have to see more of West Side Story, but I just feel like it's so old school versus the future, the more authenticness of In the Heights. It's interesting. It's a very interesting discussion. Maybe they'll both win a bunch of awards, or some awards. All right, as you can see, this is a very crowded playing field, and the awards voters like to be democratic and spreading out the love. All right, then, Will Smith will take another run at the Oscars with King Richard playing the very contentious father who trained tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams. Although issues of colorism already plague this film. It's to such a degree when he was first cast that you would have thought Will Smith would have dropped out considering the complaints. But he's going with it. And then Warner Brothers has two prestige blockbusters. Christopher Nolan's Tenet, starring Black Klansman's John David Washington, who of course is the son of super Oscar star Denzel Washington. And then also, I think Birds of Prey is a bit of a contender because the media and the industry loved that movie so much that they might want to make it up to the film and those who made it for crashing and burning at the box office, with a few noms. I'm not talking like huge nominations, but I can see costume, set design, makeup, and hair. I can see that in the works. Maybe I'm not quite sure what else you could do with that. I think anything else would, it's too crowded to give it anything else. But I think people feel bad about what happened to that movie. All right, so that's our very early look at the Oscars 2021. Share your own thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.